Hello and welcome to this episode of Revive Thriveology. So I'm not in my studio. Sound quality might be a little different, but I'm traveling. But here's the thing. I knew this episode needed to go out. It's so important because of the time of year. We're getting ready for a brand new year, and I wanted you to have this episode. I am joined by my amazing friend, Maggie Kitch. We talk astrology, we talk about 2024, and some different tools to support you. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to Revive Thriveology. I help women transform their lives by harmonizing their living space through holistic home practices. I'm your host, Lisa Morton. Hello and welcome to this episode of Revive Thriveology. I am so excited today because I have someone back for a second time, someone who I just adore. Welcome, Maggie Kitch. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I feel like I'm going to bounce out of my seat.
It's an exciting time of year. I mean, there's a lot going on, and we're moving into some exciting things. If you're new to meeting Maggie, go back and check out. I'm episode 4, 5, 6 or something in there. I'll have to look and put it in the show notes. Was our first conversation. Maggie does astrology and is so amazing. And not only do I love the information she gives us, but like she has this great approach and I just love her energy and I know you will too. Maggie, introduce yourself to anyone who might be new. Just give them an overview.
Okay. Hi, my name is Maggie. I am an astrologer, and right now I work with a lot of women, actually, not by I'm open to working with men, but I think that that's the audience that is most captivated by astrology right now. But like high performing women, we talk about what's going on in the cosmos and how they can use that information to kind of set themselves up for success in the current energy that's at hand. And that looks like, we do a little strategy, but we also do reflecting where we're looking at the themes that are presented and contemplating what that means to us and how that fits into our lives. And that's one of the reasons why I love astrology so much.
Ooh, so good. So good. Can you give everyone just like a quick 101 overview of astrology if they're totally new to this concept? Maybe they've never, they've heard of it, but they don't really know much about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so passionate about this. um, I don't think that you need to believe in astrology at all. And that's why it's so beautiful to me because what it is a system that is predictable, it's consistent. We know where all of the planets are going to be on what day in what year, no matter which direction, if you go backwards in time or forwards in time. Planets are connected to their own themes. They all have their own kind of personalities. I like to think of them like the board of directors that sits inside of you and helps you to kind of navigate the world. So if we know that these certain characters are moving through the sky and they're moving through certain parts of the sky that correspond to certain parts of our lives, then we have a beautiful, consistent, reliable format in order to contemplate kind of all of the themes of life. And I have not found a system that does that, that allows for a consistent like sharing of information or a consistent highlighting of themes where we aren't just focusing on one aspect all the time. And I kind of feel like that's how the world works right now. Like we're just supposed to work really hard all the time, and that's how
Oh
we get
gosh.
successful. But when we do that, we miss out on, okay, what is my relationship to my belief systems? What are my belief systems? I don't know. If we don't
Yeah.
know these things about ourselves, it's really hard to make changes. It's really hard to move forward in a way that honors what we're trying to accomplish in our lives.
I
So
love that.
it's just a really nice presentation of themes that go to a rhythm that we can track and count on every single year.
That's so good. So something I really love that's really been transformative for me since our first talk, I've really been following just the moon phases because I'll admit it, sometimes I get overwhelmed. I love to watch your videos and, get everything you share online on your socials and everything, which I'll share Maggie's info in the show notes so everybody can go follow you and get all these great little nuggets of information like, hey, this is going to be a good week. This isn't, this is what you need to know. But just like dialing down to just the moon phases and having in my calendar, now is when I need to start slowing down.
Yeah.
That's huge. It's been so good for me.
We all have so much inertia in what we're doing. And like, if we don't pause for a moment to reflect and be like, oh my God, I haven't exhaled in 5 days. Like that is, we can run forward all we want, but if we don't stop, then we get burned out. So
Mm-hmm.
I just,
Yeah.
I love that ebb and flow. It's consistent. We don't really have to think too much about it. We can just look out the window, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So let's talk more about reflecting. Let's reflect back on 2023 and some of the things that happened, some things you might want to point out or note so that, understanding what happened helps us prepare and know for the future, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. So there's a lot of different kinds of astrology. I didn't even really realize this until a couple months ago. But there's a kind of astrology called mundane astrology, and it looks at what the planets are doing and current events that are happening. And when we do that, we can start to connect patterns and connect dots from like way back when in history. So I'm going to take you on a little mundane journey.
How exciting.
I know I've got a couple key things from 2023 just to because I don't think that the planets are controlling what's happening. I think it's merely a reflection of the time. So when we look back at 2023 and we see, okay, I'm just going to jump right in.
Yeah, jump in. I'm so excited now.
So in March of 2023, the planet Saturn went into Pisces. Now, let me give you a little backstory on Saturn. Saturn represents responsibility. So, wherever that planet falls in your natal chart is going to tell me these are kind of the responsibilities she's going to have to figure out how to master as she's alive. So, for everybody, everyone is experiencing this responsibility somehow, some way, as it relates to Pisces, which is emotion and dreams and mental health and the kind of intangible parts of who we are. So, in the big wide world out there, that can mean lots of things. It can mean like, substances that we can't touch or see, so like poisons or toxins that are in the air. We can't, it's not always easy for us to visually see those, identify them, and make a decision to, okay, I'm not going to go outside right now. So that's just kind of what Saturn is, structure and responsibility and those kinds of themes, those kinds of parts and qualities of who we are. So to have responsibility in this water sign that doesn't really have boundaries, it's kind of imaginative. It's not things that are quantifiable or measurable. So those two things don't really, like, that would be like trying to build a sandwich out of silly putty. Like that doesn't have a structure or a
I
pattern.
love your analogies. They're the best.
But does that make sense though?
It
Like
does.
we can't, it's hard to make structures out of things that don't have a lot of form or don't have something that we can really see the edges of what that thing is. Um, so let me take it back a little bit more just to hopefully help this make sense. In
Okay.
March of 2020 is when the lockdowns happened. When March of 2020, Saturn, responsibility, restriction, limitation, moved into the sign of Aquarius, which is our social circles, our networks, and our friends. And so, suddenly, very closely related to when the lockdown period started, we had rules and restrictions and limitations around who we could see, who we could talk to, if we could go out into the world. And suddenly, there's this limitation around something that we didn't have limits around before. So I think that's really interesting. So come forward a little bit. March of
Okay.
2023, Saturn moves into Pisces. So we're kind of working on dissolving boundaries. Our boundaries are a little bit blurred. That structure that we're trying to get the silly putty to maintain, it's like not speaking the same language. So we can see a lot of water themes that happened in 2023. In fact, the day that there was a big Saturn activity was June 18th. You want to know what happened on June 18th?
Do
That's
I?
the submersible that they should had no business going down to see the Titanic. That's when that all happened. We have big Saturn activity going on. It's in the sign of Pisces, which is water. And suddenly there is a very real representation of what Saturn and Pisces looks like: pressure, underwater, something that's hidden. We don't know what's going to happen. No one above the water knew what was going on down there. So that is just
Wow.
like, and there were a lot of weird water things that happened over the summer. There were orcas attacking boats, and there was this big, the Coast Guard said they got like 1,000 calls for help, and they're like, nah, it's not that big of a deal. And 155 people were capsized in a boat, like just lots of like
Wow.
weird water stuff going on. So Saturn will be in Pisces until I think 2026. So
Wow.
we can just like, that's a big theme. Watch for water, watch for structures, watch for boundaries, watch for everything. And I'm using like very broad words on purpose because I don't know. I guess if you're new to astrology, that might sound a little bit weird. Like structure with water. Water is emotion, it's
Uh-huh.
feeling. So there's going to be some, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some type of restriction or responsibility that we as a people have to face as it relates to our responsibilities around our emotions.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's wow. Okay.
I hope
Keep going.
that
What else do you
makes
have?
sense.
This is amazing. The whole time my jaw is like, whoa.
They're just, if you look back, you can see just weird things. Like there was some incident where people were hurt in Mexico and they were all misidentified. The people, it was not their right identity as they were like trying to figure out what happened and report back to their families. That's blurred boundaries. That's like, it's real. It's, I imagine that smoke and mirrors of Pisces of like, is it real? Is it not real? Am I just looking at the world the way I want to? I don't know. So I think that some of those Saturn themes, we can't know until we're on the other side and looking back. So I
Mhm.
think that something that we can take from that, if that was a load of mumbo jumbo to you, um, is that we have responsibilities to know what our boundaries are and to like consider our emotions as an important part of who we are. So if
Ooh.
that's something that is hard for you, if you're not connected to your emotional body, this is a really good year for you to establish that connection.
And how, what are some ways that maybe people could work on that?
Yes.
Do you have some
So
tips?
just being aware of, okay, well, I'm really angry right now, and not doing anything to make yourself feel better, which sounds so weird, but I think it's really important. Where we get into trouble is when we bury all that stuff under the rug and we just sweep it and sweep it and sweep it because it is it's easier to not be uncomfortable than it is to be
Hmm.
uncomfortable. So I like to think of our emotions like little GPS pings. And if I'm experiencing something that makes me feel uncomfortable, um, my first thought is to rearrange everything out here, outside of myself. Tell that person not to talk to me that way. Or, I don't want to hang out with those people because they're really rude. So when I feel uncomfortable, and a lot of people do, the first thing they do is go outside into their environment and they tell people, this is how I expect you to treat me. And this is how I feel comfortable. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying that we don't stand up for ourselves at all. I'm simply saying that you pause for a moment before you go to rearrange all your externals in order to feel better on the inside.
Hmm.
And that can be scary. That's
Yeah.
against our nature. Like we all want to feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
when we don't, it's like our brain takes it as a threat, and really it's not. It's a clue.
Hmm.
Something
Yeah.
something isn't aligned. So rather than looking outside to make things feel better on the inside, look around inside of yourself and like maybe there's a wound there that I've been
Hmm.
under the rug for so long that like I don't even remember where it came from.
This plays a lot with some of my clients because they're like, Lisa, fix it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's journal.
Yeah.
Here's a journal prompt for you. Or we'll do a guided visualization. I do this thing called synchro alignment technique. And they appreciate it at the end, but at the moment they're like, but just fix it. Tell me what I need to do.
It's
And I'm like,
it.
yeah, let's understand why we're feeling this way before we work on modifying our space, because then that will help us understand how we need to modify it,
Right.
right? To
Right.
support it for next time, or to understand on a deeper level.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's really good. These it's been an emotional year.
It has been. And I think that it will be. And this is so important to me. We're not afraid of astrology. I don't want anyone that's listening to listen to this and be like, oh my God, I'm going to have emotional turmoil for the next 3 years. No, that's not what we're doing. We're taking responsibility for our emotions. And that's it. Like, it's not something to be afraid of. When we take the time to master these skills, when we put the work in, when we're responsible for these things, then we create new foundations for our future self to stand on. So that's why it's important to do the work, because if we're operating out of fear and we're scared that we're gonna feel uncomfortable things, and we start to rearrange everything to feel better, like, those uncomfortable things are not going to get healed. We don't get to
Mm-hmm.
then, like, advance out of that state of discomfort. So
Mm-hmm.
I think if you are listening and this makes you feel paranoid or a little bit afraid, then take a deep breath, like, get all that air out, relax your shoulders, and know that you are capable, you are competent, and that you are going to come out the other side of this a stronger person. So I hope that helps.
That's good. All right. So let's all take a deep breath and digest all of that, because okay, that was big, but good. So good.
Yeah,
Let's move into 2024.
2024.
I don't even know where to start, Maggie. Is there a theme or a couple themes that you see happening? And again, I know this is going to, just like when I work on someone's home, every specific home is different, every specific space is different, everybody lives in their space different. So if you guys do want to connect with Maggie, she will give you she'll do your chart and do all the details, right?
Mm.
But is there like a collective kind of overview
Yeah.
you can give us?
I think I think there's a couple things. I think that AI, like artificial intelligence, is going to be a big theme in 2024. And that is kind of like more outside of ourselves. And I think that for the inside of ourselves part, for as it relates to each of us, I think that relationships are going to be a really big theme. And that is from the polarity of relationship to self versus relationship to others. We every year we have eclipses. It's not in the same time of the year every year, but the eclipses this year are happening in Aries and Libra. So that tells me that changes every like 1.5 years. So the fact that the eclipses are happening in Aries and Libra, I think that there's a lot of lessons for us to learn in the themes that relate to those two things. So Aries is all about the self. It's about your physical body. It's about your identity. It's about how you like move around in the world. So it's a very personal. Some people get uncomfortable when they're exploring their relationship to their self because they feel like they're being selfish. And I think that is going to be just something to think about this year. And our relationship with ourself influences how we do relationships with everyone else. So I think that from a very small perspective, that's going to be something for all of us to think about, but also on a bigger like world scale. I think that world relationships are going to be highlighted, between I don't want to talk about
Okay.
politics, but like the
Yeah.
groups of people that live on the world, countries and stuff. I think that that's going to be, I'm just curious to see
Yeah.
how that,
Wow.
how that unfolds.
Wow.
I think with the AI stuff,
Ooh, yeah. Tell me about that. What do you see?
I don't know. It's easier to look back and see. And so
Okay.
I found a quote from between March and June. Pluto was in Aquarius. And that's when a lot of the AI stuff was happening. Aquarius is about the future and social circles and networks and how we can work together within our social circles to make the future for humanity better. So when the when the planet Pluto moved into Aquarius, that tells us where the collective fear is that everybody's afraid of. In March, people were freaking out about AI. I found a Time magazine article that says pausing AI developments isn't enough. We need to shut it down. And that's
Ooh.
just like, I think that that kind of like, people aren't agreeing with how to approach AI. You know, there are some people like higher up at Google that were like, we need to stop. And when the company said, no, we need to progress and keep moving forward so we can be number one, those high up executives left because they were like, I do not agree with how you're doing this. Like, we need to be more cognizant. We need to think forward more. And so, with Pluto going into Aquarius this year, it's going to stay there till 2024 or 2044. Excuse me. That's
Wow.
a long time. So that I just think that moving in for the first time, I think that this year is going to be, I think that's going to be a lot of the buzzwords. I think it's going to be a lot of what people are talking about. I think there's probably going to, people are going to want to regulate it and put some systems and structures around it to mitigate some of the fear that people are feeling because
Mm-hmm.
we don't know. I mean, if it gets smarter than us and it does whatever, we don't have very much control over that.
It could be like a sci-fi movie.
It could be like a sci-fi movie, but I just thought that that quote, that article was written within 10 days of Pluto going into Aquarius
Wow.
last March. So I think that that's going to be a big part of the year. So we'll have to watch our headlines and
Do
content.
you have any a step for someone to take to stay grounded around this whole, because I know it, the whole concept of it is just wild.
Yeah, I think that it comes back to your relationship with yourself and feeling
Mhm.
confident with who you are and feeling confident that, like, yes, all this weird stuff can be going on in the world, but guess what? Like, I can still live the life that I'm choosing. And maybe that's a little bit delusional. Maybe that's a little bit like an ostrich putting its head in the sand, but I, a lot of like the news headlines, I don't really let that influence the way I live my day-to-day life. And that's personal. I know not everybody feels that way, but I think coming back to yourself and
Hmm.
feeling comfortable in yourself is going to be I think that's going to be a really big important part of this year,
Hmm.
because then you'll have confidence in your relationships. And
Hmm.
when you feel comfortable inside of yourself, then less of what happens outside pulls you away from center. So I just
That's
think,
good.
yeah, asking questions, like sitting with yourself, not being busy all the time. When we're busy all the time, we get really inactive on the inside because we're distracted.
Yeah. So maybe if someone wants to kind of find that slow time, they can jump into just the moon phases and notice when the moon phases, when you're supposed to be active, when you're supposed to be slower. Again, go back and watch that first episode I recorded with Maggie, and she talks more about that and educates us on that. You can also reach out to Maggie too. She's so helpful with understanding things if you want a consultation, all that. But now I want to move into something, talk about something that Maggie and I've been working on. We collaborated with another gal on a planner for 2024, and it is available now. There's like three parts. There's astrology, feng shui, and psychology. So we've developed this beautiful planner, and not only there's your calendar, right? And Maggie noted the moon phases, the astrological things, all these little things in your basic calendar. And then you go in, there's individual days where you can write it. You can use it as your planner to write in your appointments, put your schedule in. You have a doctor's appointment, whatever day. And then I love the journal page. So that's where you can really digest, just word vomit. Sometimes I just have to like just write. I turn on some music and just free write, right? And I love having those pages. But what's so cool about this planner that we worked so hard on is this page of magic. I mean, every month has a page of magic. So at the top, there's an astrology section where Maggie highlights. Maggie, you tell me about the astrology. You share about your section at the top.
Yeah, so it's there's so many levels and layers to astrology, but I wanted to keep it simple because like there's a lot going on in the world. So I really just kind of talk about the theme of the month at hand by looking at the new moon and the full moon. So you'll get a here's the themes that are relevant this time of the year, and so then you can go into it with an awareness, and from awareness you can be really deliberate. So it's not meant to be like predictions for the future. It's not meant to like just be anything weird. It's just meant like, okay, if the theme this month is belief systems, so now I have an opportunity to think, okay, what do I believe in and why? Like, where did that come from? And when we start to have those thoughts, then we get to see all the things we carry with us for absolutely no reason. Beliefs that we don't agree with anymore, and yet we're gripping onto them so tightly. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of highlighting the themes as it goes through the astrological wheel or the calendar of the year, so there's nothing that you miss.
And they're like digestible things and easy to implement. So that's at the top of the page, and then there's a section of feng shui. So I got into the five elements using the Bagua. We put together a Bagua astrology chart, which is so cool. That's in the planner as well. But the middle section is the feng shui focus, right? So you can, there's talking about bring this element in this time of year, XYZ, for whatever month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then every month there's also a well-being checkpoint. So I love that. That kind of gets into, health and well-being and just being the best version of yourself. And it's like this like beautiful trio to support you in 2024. And they're just really great. It's a well, like at least 6x8 kind of journal, so it's great to fit in your purse. Take it with you. I'm the person. I keep calling it a journal because I always like they're journals to me because it's my life in it. But it is a planner. But you can pop it in your tote bag, pop it in your purse. I travel with mine. I take mine everywhere, and that's we wanted this beautiful piece to support you through all day, every day. Your whole year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice hardcover. I know some people have been asking about it and everything. We don't have a copy right now, but you'll keep following both of us on social media and you'll see when they come in. They're on order. We just have had a great, lots of excitement over it. So just wanted to share about it here. Maggie, I've been gabbing enough. Why don't you share a little bit about the next exciting thing that we're doing?
Okay. I could listen to you talk all day, just so you know. So Lisa and I are going to host a quarterly Zoom call together. So we're gonna, and I think the purpose of this, correct me if I'm wrong from your standpoint, but just to give people an opportunity to be aware, so then we can be really deliberate with our actions, because I think what happens is we like our to-do lists grow every day, and then
Mhm.
we're running every day, and we get to this point where like it's a hamster wheel. And so what we want to do is we want to help just talk about, this is what's coming up, here's what you can expect, and here are some strategies that you can implement, that will help you be in harmony with the energy of the time at hand. And
That's great.
I think that harmony is one of my favorite words, and I recently looked it up. I feel like it gets a little bit of like a woo, kind of a like the Little Mermaid sings about harmony. Um,
Yeah,
but I think it's so important. I think the definition I saw was musical instruments in harmony to make a beautiful resonance. And when we observe the themes that are happening in the sky, we take actions to align ourselves with that, we take care of our home in a way that aligns with that, then suddenly we're in harmony with the natural world around us. And I think that helps to make our actions less effortful. Like we don't have to strain as much. and it lets us like leverage what's going on in our favor. So instead of running on this hamster wheel, we are like sitting in a comfy Cadillac with GPS, and we get to say like, okay, yeah, turn here.
That's great. But instead of the GPS, it's the planner.
Right, yeah.
So the membership group is a 2024 membership group called Stars and Spaces. We thought that was fun. To really like be kind of cohesive and create this whole system. So it's a yearly membership group. Again, it involves the planner. So with your membership for the year long, for all these conversations we're going to have, where you will have the opportunity to ask questions. So this is really great. You can come with your questions to every call. We have the full membership that includes the journal. If you already, or I'm sorry, the planner. If you want to, you already purchased the planner, then we have a discounted rate for just the sessions, just the year-long membership. But we'll also have some other fun things and events that, we'll just pop in. We'll make it a really good time because I know I want to make it an amazing 2024, and I'm sure, Maggie, you do too. And I believe if we're all together working towards this goal, it just amplifies the energy, right?
Yes, I think so.
So head over to Maggie's website, head over to mine. You can get more info there, sign up. Anything else? What did I miss?
I think that's the gist of it. And we'll send out, if you can't attend the session, you get a recording that you can play back as many times as you'd like.
I like that. Because I sometimes will, especially if I don't make the event live, I want to watch it, and I might even watch it again, because the first time you watch it, it's just, because you're excited and it's cool. But then like the next time I'm like taking all the notes, especially your videos, Maggie. Awesome. Hey, Maggie, thank you so much for joining me today. Was there any final things you wanted to share?
I don't think so. I think I just want to remind people that like you're in control of your life. It's not the stars, it's not your boss, it's not anyone but you. And so I think that if you are craving something that isn't yet reality, then it's all in your power, baby. You can do it.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
We will have you on again soon to talk more about what's happening up in the sky. I'd like to thank our production company, Coraggio Media, the WELT 95.7 studios, and our sponsor, Good Sheet. For more information, follow the link in the show notes. Be sure to hit like, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect, find us on Facebook, and be sure to let me know what topics you'd like to hear about. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.